She was called the second Hurrem, a woman who commanded armies, ruled empires, and shaped the destiny of kings. But the power that was once born from love had long turned to blood. The woman who inherited Hurrem Sultan's throne would die by the hands of her own family. This is the story of Kösem Sultan, the queen who ruled in the shadows of Hurrem's legacy and paid the ultimate price. Years after Hurrem's death, a new girl was brought to Istanbul. Her name was Anastasia, a Greek slave who was beautiful, intelligent, and utterly unafraid. Sold into the Topkapi Palace harem, she caught the eye of the young Sultan, Ahmed I. A ruler barely a man, already shouldering the weight of an empire. He saw something in her, a strength that couldn't be ignored, and renamed her Kösem, meaning the leader. Even as a concubine, she had a presence that commanded respect. Like Hurrem before her, Kösem's rise wasn't just about beauty or seduction. It was about strategy. She immersed herself in learning, mastering new languages, understanding the intricate web of politics, and mastering the brutal art of survival in the palace. Soon enough, she became the most powerful woman in the Ottoman court. Kösem gave Sultan Ahmed 6 children, sons and daughters, who would secure the royal line. But while other concubines endlessly fought for the Sultan's fleeting attention, Kösem watched, listened, and planned. She had seen what happened to Hurrem's sons, brother killing brother, blood spilled for the throne. She made a vow to herself. She would do what Hurrem never could. She would rule beyond the Sultan. Then in 1617, Sultan Ahmed I died suddenly, and the empire trembled. His sons were too young to rule, and his brother, Mustafa, who was known to be weak and unstable, took the throne. In an instant, Kösem was stripped of her power, removed from the palace, and forced into isolation in the old palace. But the fire of Hurrem's legacy still burned inside her, and when her son Murad IV came of age, Kösem returned, not as a concubine, but as the valid sultan. The Queen Mother, the most powerful title a woman in the Ottoman Empire could ever hold. When Murad IV became sultan, he was only 11 years old. With a child on the throne, Kösem stepped in to rule in his place. She became the de facto ruler of the empire, signing decrees, managing wars from the capital, and crushing rebellions, all in her young son's name. The fate of one of the world's greatest empires rested squarely in her hands. But as Murad grew older, he started to resent his mother's immense power. The boy she had so carefully raised and protected transformed into a tyrant, paranoid, brutal, and merciless. He executed officials on a whim, tortured his enemies, and even killed his own brother, just as Hurrem's sons had done decades before. Kösem watched in horror as her own family repeated Hurrem's curse. The cycle of blood had begun anew. In 1640, Murad IV died suddenly. Some whispered it was poison. Others said it was the weight of his own cruelty that finally crushed him. Once again, Kösem stepped into the power vacuum. Her younger son Ibrahim was now the Sultan. But Ibrahim was deeply unstable. His mind was fragile, and his heart was consumed by pleasure and paranoia. He spent his days lost in the harem with his concubines and his nights adrift in delusion. Kösem, the ever-watchful mother, ruled in his name once more, but she knew her dynasty was cracking under the immense weight of madness. Ibrahim's erratic rule eventually led to chaos and public humiliation for the empire. He was deposed and, by order of the council, executed. The throne was empty again. And so, Kösem placed her grandson, Mehmed IV, on the throne, a boy of just 6 years old. She ruled once more as regent, the empire's matriarch. But this time, things were different. Now had to share power with a rival, Hurrem Sultan Mem's young and ambitious biological mother. The palace split into two camps, the old queen and the new. Hurrem's fire had returned to the harem, not in a blaze of love, but in a storm of jealousy, ambition, and betrayal. One night in 1651, Kösem Sultan's fate was sealed. Turhan's loyal guards stormed the old queen's chambers. The once mighty ruler, who knew the palace like the back of her hand, tried to flee through secret passages she had built herself. But it was too late. They found her hiding behind a curtain. And there, in the silence of the palace she had ruled for decades, they strangled her with her own silk veil. The queen, who had outlived 3 sultans, was killed by the order of her own grandson's Regency. When her body was found, her hand still clutched a small pouch of coins gifts she had intended to give to the poor. Even in death, she thought of her people. They buried her beside Ahmed I, the man who had first seen her strength and called her Kösem. She had lived as a slave, queen, a mother, and a ruler of empires. But in the end, she met the same fate as so many before her, betrayed by her own blood, consumed by the very power she had fought so hard to control. Hurrem Sultan had lit the fire of female power within the Ottoman harem, and Kösem carried that torch further than anyone had ever dared. But like Hurrem, her brilliance came with a curse-a legacy of love, power, and blood. The story of the empire's greatest queens reminds us that in the Ottoman court, no throne was ever truly won without sacrifice. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this journey into the past, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more stories from history. We'll see you in the next one.